The city rises like a monument to ambition. Glass towers catch the sun. Engines hum below. A black car pulls to the curb, and a man steps out in a tailored suit, confident and hurried. Exactly where success is expected to stand, inside high floors. Hands shake. Smiles are exchanged. Numbers move across screens. Cards slide across tables with a quiet confidence that suggests control. This is the world he mastered. Not factories. Not land. Not oil or code. Plastic. He promised freedom. Financial freedom. Location freedom. A life without limits. But what no one saw was the foundation beneath it all. It wasn't cash. It wasn't assets. It was other people's debt. Every swipe looked harmless. Every approval felt earned. Every reward point felt like proof that the system could be beaten. Cashback piled up, credit limits expanded, status climbed quietly, invisibly, behind perfect social media posts and carefully chosen words, because credit doesn't feel like stealing. It feels like leverage. It feels like intelligence. It feels like a shortcut everyone wishes they knew. One swipe becomes 10, 10 become thousands. Thousands become an empire that looks clean. Legal, impressive, no alarms, no sirens, just approvals. But here's the truth no one talks about. A single credit card swipe can be the beginning of billions, or the beginning of a collapse that no one notices until it's far too late. So how does one man turn plastic into a fortune without anyone noticing? And more importantly, who was really paying for his freedom? He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He stood at the front of rooms. Projectors hummed. Chairs filled, not with criminals, but with young professionals, entrepreneurs. People tired of being locked out of opportunity. He spoke their language, calm, confident, precise. Credit utilization, score optimization, leverage cycles. He broke it down like a teacher who wanted his students to win. Not flashy, not reckless, just smarter than the system everyone else complained about. He told them credit wasn't dead. It was a tool, a bridge, a permission slip to a better life. People leaned forward when he spoke. They took notes. They trusted him because he sounded like someone who had figured it out the hard way and come back to share the map. Millennials listened because he wasn't selling fantasy. He was selling math. Small investors listened because he promised efficiency, not risk. He told them banks respected numbers, not dreams. And the numbers, at least on the screen, always worked. He showed his own results. Perfect payment histories. Rising limits. Cashback totals that looked like bonuses from a different life. He didn't just play the game. He taught others how to play along. And that's what made him dangerous. Because when someone teaches, they inherit trust. And trust lowers defenses faster than greed ever could. Nobody asked where every card came from. Nobody asked how every account was opened. Nobody asked why the system kept saying yes. They only asked one question, silently. To themselves, if this man understands money better than I do, why wouldn't I follow him? So here's the real question, the one no one in that room wanted to ask out loud. Would you follow someone who promises wealth from numbers you don't fully understand? Because once belief replaces comprehension, control is already gone. At first, nothing looked different. The spreadsheet still balanced. The cards still cleared. The points still accumulated like proof of intelligence. But somewhere between optimization and obsession, the line moved. He stopped asking how far credit could stretch and started asking whose name could stretch it further. Real people, real identities, names that would never sit in those workshops. Social security numbers that didn't attend seminars or sign up for freedom. He told himself it was temporary, just testing the system, just proving a flaw. Accounts were opened with surgical calm. No noise, no rush. Small limits at first, then higher, then premium. Money moved quietly, cashback. Here, balance transfers there. Nothing that screamed theft. Everything that whispered strategy. For a king, there is no honor among the plastic. He justified it the same way he taught others to justify leverage. Banks insured losses. Corporations wrote it off. No one would feel it directly. And that's how it always starts. The first mistake is never dramatic. It's invisible. A credit report delayed by a few days. A statement sent to the wrong address. A notification dismissed as a glitch. The system didn't scream, it blinked, and every time it blinked, he took that as permission. Here's the moment that matters, the one that separates intelligence from crime. Is gaming the system smart, or does it become criminal the moment the system belongs to someone else? Because once you stop seeing people behind the numbers, every swipe feels clean, until it isn't. The returns didn't just grow, they echoed. Cashback stacked on cashback. Miles turned into first-class flights. Limits expanded without resistance. What began as quiet optimization became spectacle. Cars appeared, views multiplied, screens filled with proof of screenshots, dashboards. Lifestyles carefully framed to look earned. Followers copied him line by line, applied where he applied, spent where he spent, believed because he looked certain, and certainty is contagious. The richer he became, the more invisible the risk felt, because success has a strange effect on judgment. It turns warning signs into background noise. Each swipe carried weight, not financial weight, but moral gravity. Each loan added pressure the system didn't show on paper. Each borrowed identity stretched the lie thinner, but from the outside, it looked effortless. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was teaching at scale. And when thousands repeat the same shortcut, the shortcut stops being clever, it becomes loud. That's the danger of empires built on leverage. They don't collapse when money disappears. They collapse when attention arrives. Because somewhere beneath the luxury, beneath the applause, beneath the points and perks, the debt wasn't resting. It was piling up, and it was attached to names that weren't his. The knock didn't come quietly. It came early. Too early for meetings. Too early for explanations. By the time the doors opened, the story had already ended. Federal charges, search warrants, accounts frozen mid-transaction, cards that once cleared instantly now declined without apology. The kingdom of plastic met reality. Screens went dark. Dashboards stopped updating. The same system that rewarded speed now demanded answers. He didn't look shocked. He looked confused. Because in his mind, this wasn't theft. It was strategy. He told himself the banks were faceless. That credit was infinite. That numbers could be moved without anyone bleeding. But debt always has a name attached to it. And this time, the names weren't his. Investigators followed the trail backward. Applications, IP addresses, patterns hidden behind confidence. Every identity he borrowed became a witness. Every swipe became evidence. There was no dramatic chase. No escape plan. Just silence where applause used to be. In that silence, one question remained unanswered. When the law finally arrives, do you run from the story you told, or do you stand still and admit the cost of believing it? Because shortcuts don't disappear when they stop working. They wait, and they collect. He used to stand on stages and talk about freedom. Freedom from banks. Freedom from debt. Freedom from rules written for people who didn't know how to win. Crowds listened. They took notes. They repeated his phrases like scripture. He said credit was leverage. That debt was a tool. That smart people didn't work harder, they worked the system. And for a while, it looked true. People watched him rise and believed the lesson worked because the teacher looked successful. But what no one saw was the cost. Every trick he taught depended on someone else carrying the weight. Every win required a stranger to lose quietly. Every hack borrowed time from people who never agreed to lend it. He spoke of liberty, but collected chains. When the case files were laid out, the irony became impossible to ignore. The man who preached financial freedom had built his empire by removing it from others. The man who taught escape had trapped himself inside a story that only worked while no one looked closely. And when the truth surfaced, the wealth vanished faster than it appeared. Not because the ideas were wrong, but because the foundation was, in theory, he made people rich. In practice, he became the poorest person in the room, because when the illusion breaks, money leaves, followers disappear, and only responsibility remains. And that is the lesson now workshop ever teaches. Freedom isn't what you take from the system, it's what survives when the system finally looks back. Shortcuts always invoice later. At first, the bill comes quietly. A missed detail, a line crossed and justified, a win that feels too easy to question. Playing the system can feel intelligent. It can feel modern. It can even feel deserved. But reality keeps records longer than applause. Interest compounds. Consequences mature. And one day, the balance is due. Not because the system hates shortcuts, but because shortcuts were never meant to last. If this story made you pause before taking the easy way out, then it worked. Subscribe for real stories about ambition, greed, and consequences that don't show up immediately. Like this video if you've ever been tempted to cheat the system, and share it, because someone you know might still be living on borrowed credit, believing the bill will never arrive.